everyone for once again inviting me to speak at your conference. I'm very excited about being able to bring the third year in a row the Asia Pacific edition of our major white paper. And I want to thank all of the audience there, as well as the SHRM organization and the SHRM Tech Conference for supporting the research that we've been doing together as a team. We're really excited about where it's ended up. For those of you who might not know who we are, I have just 10 minutes to get through my presentation. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information, and then I'm going to point you to a few of my team members who are there on site. But Cedar is a management consulting firm, but most important to me is that for the last 22 years, they have invested in thought leadership research around the HR technology market, where it's at, what organizations are adopting, and how they've adopted it. Because I'm not going to be able to get through all the details for the research, I do have team members who will be standing right after the presentation at the SHRM booth to answer any questions you have and to help if you have any questions for downloading the full Asia Pacific edition report, the aggregate report. One of the things that's really exciting about Cedar and what they've done for the last 22 years is they have always freely given back the data that we've gathered in this research in both a big aggregate report and now for the last 3 years in an Asia Pacific edition. And most exciting is that because we have continued to increase year over year, last year we've almost doubled the amount of participation from the Asia Pacific market. We now have the ability to add an additional level of insight for your audience, which is for the report. When they download it, they'll see that there is a breakout of India specific data. And we're really excited about that because that means we've got enough data now to be able to give you some trends on the HR technology space and the market, how organizations are using those technologies, and what's driving outcomes in them. So again, fully downloadable and available for anybody who wants to participate as well. We are in the middle of our survey season, so you probably are getting some announcements about it. If you have any questions about participating, please let us know. It is a long survey, I know, but it really is that length of the survey that allows us to look at all areas of the HR technology market and give you a strategic view of how you're using your HR technology space. So I'm going to dive right into the data. If you have any questions, again, there will be a team member of mine who's at the SHRM booth after the session. First, I want to talk a little bit, though, not just about what we found in the just the Asia Pacific market, but what we found in the overall aggregate data this year. As what we've been seeing as a trend in the market as a whole across the world, which is that how organizations select, purchase, make decisions, and use their HR technology is changing dramatically over the last several years. We used to make decisions about our HR technology selections, about the HR technologies that we needed, based off of primarily our processes and our types of workforces. Two important things, areas where we need to have focus on, but those were the primary drivers. We were trying to make an efficient process and we were trying to address a workforce need. And what's changed in the last several years is that we have found that the organizations have invested a lot more attention in the strategy around how HR technology is supporting all those HR initiatives we just heard about in the last presentation from the Deloitte organization. We are really seeing people think more strategically about their HR technology, not just as a tool, but as an asset to their technology conversation and their workforce decision making. And so they're talking about strategy. They're also investing time in the culture. They're talking a lot about the type of culture they want and how their technology needs to be supported by that culture, as well as a really important role of data governance. Data governance is a critical component of HR technology selections these days and is outpacing, in many cases, any other conversation we're seeing with HR technology selection. Real quickly, what that looks like for the HR technology community is that we're starting to see the HR technology environment look a lot more like a box within a box, a four-dimensional connected environment that is an ecosystem and no longer just the idea of sort of a process map that we're linearly purchasing technology through. So it looks a little bit more like this. And I'm going to build this out because we don't have enough time to walk all the way through it today. But we do have a full explanation of this in the report. And what's really important here is that you'll see the strategy, culture, and data governance is at the center of the of the 6 categories that we track in the HR technology space. In those 6 categories, you'll find administrative, service delivery technology, workforce management, talent management, as well as workforce intelligence. And now, just as important is the emerging technology conversation. Those um, decision making processes and tools that are in the emerging technology space are no longer an afterthought to the HR technology discussion. They're now part of the whole picture. Again, lots of information in the report about how to think about that. This is a great starting point if you're trying to figure out how you think about your HR technology ecosystem. All of that is wrapped around by your internal data privacy, workflows, mobile strategies, network security. Those type of things must fall within your HR technology ecosystem environment, as well as connections to your finance and your customer relationship and vendor management and workforce productivity tools. We're finding HR technology that stands alone, that doesn't have connections to all the other areas within their organization, has much less or is much less likely to have outcomes for organizations. So those are the really critical things to think about in this overall area. This is the area that we assess and do a survey on, is all of these technology conversations here. More details in the report. But for you in the Asia Pacific market, we did take a deep dive and say, okay, so what are you adopting today? What type of technology is being utilized most? What type of areas are you investing time and energy in? First off, we know that about 80% of the market in Asia Pacific has invested in things like payroll, time and attendance, core HRMS, absence, and leave. In the India market, we see a higher percentage of organizations also investing in the areas of HR portals. That is not true throughout the Asia Pacific market, but in India, HR portals seem to be a very important area for the HR technology environment. We are also seeing the little bit lower adoption in the areas of scheduling technology in the India market compared to the overall Asia Pacific market. That is much higher across the rest of the market. The one thing that is probably a big call out here is that we're still seeing a lot fewer organizations across Asia Pacific and really in a global market. Everyone's having this challenge adopting areas like compensation, career planning, and HR analytics. As much as we just heard how important all of those things are to your audience and your workforce decision making processes and your HR strategies, those are not being adopted at the high levels. Only about 20 to 30% of the market is adopting those right now. So there's real opportunity to improve those areas. We're also seeing, from a key findings perspective, that the Asia Pacific market as a whole is increasing their HR technology spending faster than any other market. Now, we saw this last year. It was up to about 60% last year. It's jumped to 72% this year of organizations planning to increase their HR technology budget over the next 12 months. And we also find, I looked at India individually. India was about 71%. So really almost exactly the same as the overall Asia Pacific market. Now, when you look at that compared to the EMEA market or to the North America market, a much bigger difference. North America, only 39% of organizations are planning to increase their HR technology budget. So really the biggest growth and the fastest growth right now is happening in the Asia Pacific market from an HR technology perspective. We're also seeing that about 71% of organizations plan to do an HR technology transformation effort, which means they're either replacing or implementing brand new HR technology environments. In the Asia Pacific market, again, that's about the same for the India market as well as the whole Asia Pacific market, much higher in many cases than other areas or other regions as well. We're also seeing that cloud is continuing to increase. So if you're looking at whether or not you're an organization who's currently got a lot of on-premise environments and you're looking at the cloud technology, we saw about a 10% increase from last year in the percentage of organizations in the Asia Pacific market who have cloud HR technology deployed at some level. That's about a 5% higher if we just look at India organizations than what we see currently for Asia Pacific as a whole. But we're also not seeing the on-premise environments drop dramatically. A lot of organizations, most of the Asia Pacific market, particularly the India market, is doing hybrid technology environments. So one of the things we're seeing is sort of keeping some of their on-premise environments, putting some cloud technology, marrying that together, figuring out how it all works. The other thing that we're seeing is that we are continuing to see increased user experience numbers with those environments. And so we're really excited to see that more cloud tends to give us better user experience scores. All right, I'm going to jump through here real quickly because I know there's a couple of things that are important to this audience. One is, where are people investing their time and energy? We do have Asia Pacific data overall, but probably most important to you is the India data. And this is where I'm going to wrap up today, but then I'm going to kind of tell you the kind of things that are also in the report that you should be looking for. So one of the things is that we are seeing that for the India market, payroll is the #1 area where organizations plan to invest their HR technology time, resources, and budgets in the next 12 to 24 months. 65% of organizations that we surveyed said that is where they're investing their resources. The next comes talent management applications, both recruiting, learning, as well as performance management. And then after that comes core HRMS. Much different from the rest of the Asia Pacific market. Over 50% of India-based organizations are also planning to invest in workforce planning and scheduling technology. So remember I said they were a little bit lower than the rest of the market. We're seeing that that is definitely a place where we're seeing some investment here in the India market. And that planning component is particularly important. And we definitely see that because of the demographics in this region, where there's a lot more sort of younger generation workforces than we see in any other region, that workforce planning is becoming a critical component as part of that conversation. All right, so I'm not going to be able to get to much of the other things, but I do want to note that if you're looking at where people are spending time and energy 24 months out, so after this next 12 months, 24 months out, it's going to be in that HRBI analytics space, as well as a huge increase, particularly in the indie market, 1.5 times more higher increase in investment will be in system consolidations. So if you're looking forward, you want to think about what organizations are going to be investing time and energy in after this next 12 months, and the payroll and the talent management, system consolidation, and HR and BI analytic tools are definitely top of the priority list next. If you get an opportunity, we also have data in the report about the roles that are being hired. #1 role across the Asia Pacific market, as well as India, is HR data analytics role. Over 48% of organizations, and that jumps to 50% in India, are hiring HR data analytics roles within organizations. And then we look at recruiting and talent management. We also have data about mobile technology and how that's being used in organizations, and the overall usage of the HR technology to make business decisions. The one interesting point I will make before I wrap up today is that those organizations in India, as well as across the Asia Pacific market, who do adopt HR technology are much more likely to use it at a more strategic level than we see in North America or in the EMEA markets. So I just want to make that statement. So there's a little bit less adoption overall in the market, but when they do adopt, they're using it more strategically. And I think you heard that a little bit earlier with our previous presentation, that you guys have already figured out in some ways the talent management, cultural conversations, the things that you need to really work on from a workforce perspective. And that's showing up in the technology usage and how you're using it. It's much more sophisticated, much more focused on making workforce business decisions than we see in some other regions and areas. All right, so there's a couple of key findings here. Also in the report and in our materials will be the 5 top things you can do to get a better business outcome. I can promise you it has nothing to do with any one specific technology. It has to do with things that every organization can do, from small, medium, and large. You'll find that in the report. And if you have any questions about the report, you can download the information here. You can contact me on LinkedIn, or you can see my team at the SHRM booth for the next 15 to 20 minutes of the show if you have any questions or have any problems downloading the white paper, participating in this year's report, or downloading the aggregate report as a whole. I know this was really quick, and I appreciate you guys taking the time, but thank you. If you have any questions, we are so excited about the research that we're doing and sharing it with you guys. So Archana, thank you for giving us the opportunity.